Today, boys and girls, is part 2 on Machiavelli. And there's part 2, and there's not normally in most of my YouTube videos on philosophers. There's a part 2 because Machiavelli prompts more people to commentary than most other philosophers that we discussed. Usually people will have something to say about a philosopher in general, and then we move on. But with Machiavelli, people get their back up, it seems. They say right away that this guy is wrong. He's not a qualified leader, and his whole ideology of leading by fear is unacceptable in society. Well, I have a little bit of a commentary there. Machiavelli came to prominence at a time when blood ruled. Violence was used on a regular basis to attain means. And those that didn't soon learned that they were wrong. And I'll give you a great example. In Florence, in about the time when Machiavelli was kicked out of public office, there was a leader who took over Florence when they ousted the Medici family, and the leader was Christian. He was a Franciscan friar, I believe. I would think he was Franciscan friar. Franciscan started not far from Florence, so I would assume he was a Franciscan friar. And he took over control of Florence. Now you would think, from a modern perspective, that would be good. Like the Christians, the Catholic Christians in Italy, based their ideology around a guy named Jesus Christ. And Jesus Christ lived about 2,000 years ago, and he was all about peace and love. However, if you look at Jesus Christ's life from a leadership perspective, he didn't gain a big following. He didn't have a lot of support. He was ridiculed, and he was put to death at the end of his life. So from a leadership perspective, perhaps Machiavelli thought there might be better models to choose from. And that's why he kind of leaned away from the Catholic underpinning of societies, of leadership in societies. So Machiavelli looked at other leaders and determined how they ruled and decided, and looked at those and then made his decisions on what he thought would work best for governance. Now, obviously he had some ideas about using violence, and that's he's often quoted with making statements like "the end justifies the means." Well, just hearing that, you can hear the bloodlust in that statement. Or there were some other common quotes that he used that fell along the confines of the same ideology. When we hear that, we've been through the public education system, and I teach in the public education system, so the foundation, the keystone of the public education system is a threefold. It's a diversity and equality and inclusion. So when you hear Machiavelli's point of view in governance, you hear none of those. So that right away causes concern, and his use of fear causes concern. And most people initially say there's absolutely no use for fear in leadership. That is horrific to have fear in leadership. But if you think about it, sometimes the leadership does use fear, and sometimes they have to. Just look at driving down the street. So if I'm driving down Reserve Street in Glace Bay and driving by the high school, and I'm like everybody else, and it's this time of year, I might have my hand out the window, and I might be driving down the road doing about 65 kilometers an hour, because that's what everybody drives on Reserve Street. If, however, I see in the mirror behind me, I see a police officer driving his car, well, all of a sudden things change. I have the fear that he might give me a ticket, and because I have that fear, I slow down. So you can see that sometimes fear is used in leadership, and it is used to accomplish an end, and the end being a fair and just society. My dog is upset. boys and girls. Have a great day. Machiavelli Part 2. See you tomorrow. Hey, Angie boy.